Hey, welcome back. The last style of jig that I want to talk to you about right now is the football jig. I have two that I use. This is the Dirty Jigs Finesse Football, and then this is the Skirted Football, a little bit heavier hook. Typically when people think of football jigs, you're thinking light wire, clear water, usually reservoir fishing, where you're fishing a lot more mud or sandy bottom. When you bring a football across that bottom, it tends to stir it up, to kind of puff up that dirt a little bit or that mud into the water and look a lot like a crawdad. So that's typically where people use these very light wire hooks. But this skirted football is one of my favorites. And I'll tell you the reason why is I get all the benefits of the football, but if you haven't found the common theme yet, I like catching big fish. So I'm always afraid when I hook big fish on too light of a wire hook. You know, you can play, I mean, you got plenty of drag and it works out most of the time, but if I can get away with a heavier hook, I will. So that's where this skirted football comes into play. Now this hook's not ridiculous. I mean, it's not a no-jack hook or anything, but it's more of a standard, I believe it's a 4/0, 2 or 3X hook. I mean, it's a regular pitching or flipping style hook, nice and stout. And that is something you don't usually get in a football jig. Absolutely love that hook. When I'm fishing for spotted bass, smaller spotted bass, smallmouth, that's when you see me use the finesse football. As soon as I switch over to largemouth, I go to that skirted football so that if I do hook a big one, I've got a better chance of putting them in the boat. I can put a lot more pressure on them. Now, as far as specific colors for these, just like everything else, I keep it very simple. Let me pick up my football jig box here. I still, even though it's a huge box with way too many jigs in it, I still keep it simple. You know, my greens and browns, this one's called Go-To. Blacks and blues. Cinnamon purple, that's my color. Super matte brown, I can't get away from that color. Kurt's Craw covers the brown and orange type color. And then Molten Craw is more of my brown on brown, on brown, on brown, on brown, on brown. Just an awesome color. But that's it. You keep it very simple. You don't need tons of colors. I'm going to tell you this over and over again. You don't need tons of colors. What you need is a few complex colors. I mean, let's just pick out one that I haven't talked about before. This is Kurt's Craw. I'm not a color person, so I can't explain all the different colors I'm looking at, but what you have just on the head is like a tan fading into a brown into a black. That's the actual paint. Then on the jig itself, I'm going from a tan to an almost orange to several different shades of brown, all the way around to a black, and then with some bright orange fleck highlights. You don't need a lot of colors in different jigs. You need a lot of colors in one jig. If I were to throw this out and it was just brown and orange, that does not have the same effect as a jig with all those different colors. When you put this in the water, it becomes so complex. All those different colors moving around your skirt, it's just much more real. That is so key. If you want to consistently put bigger fish in the boat, you need to hone in on the details. I can't drive that enough. Don't be happy with a 1 or 2 tone jig. You want to get a lot of colors in there. Pay attention to the details. If you need to cut your weed guards back, you do that. You match it to the right hook, the right trailer. And again, when I'm using footballs, I'm almost always using a Yamamoto double tail. Occasionally, I'll go to a small sweet beaver or to a small pack-a-chunk. And also occasionally I'll use pork for all of these different jigs that I've been talking about today. But almost always it's that Yamamoto double tail. Just puts fish in the boat and big fish. Great option. So that's the finesse football and the skirted football. Now as far as the rods I throw these on, I use a Dobbins. I don't use the 765 because again these are a little bit lighter wire hook. So for these I use a 743 and a 744. What that is they're both 7 foot 4 inches. That's what the first numbers are. And then a 3 power and a 4 power. I use the 3 power for the finesse football, the 4 power for the skirted football because I can get away with it. And again, those rods aren't too stout. They're not too fast. I believe they are actually rated as fast action rods, but they're just a little bit slower than that. You get enough rod bend to keep those fish pinned. Another great option.